Family reunions should be about reconnecting, sharing memories, and celebrating together. But the Reynolds family reunion had morphed into something entirely different: an annual competition, a showcase of success and status, a chance to prove who had climbed highest on the corporate ladder. My name is Emily Reynolds, and until 3 months ago, I was the lead developer at Horizon Technologies, one of Silicon Valley's fastest-growing software companies. Today, I was the family disappointment, the cautionary tale, the topic of whispered conversations around the punch bowl. The sting of their judgment cut deeper than I wanted to admit. Did you hear about Emily? Such a shame, and at her age. I stood at the edge of my aunt's perfectly manicured Palo Alto lawn, nursing a drink and watching my more successful relatives hold court. My stomach clenched with a mixture of frustration and determination. My cousin Dominic, CEO of his own startup, was regaling everyone with stories of his latest funding round. His sister Lydia, a senior marketing executive at Google, was showing off photos of her new Malibu beach house, her perfectly manicured nails swiping through images of ocean views. Emily. Dominic's voice carried across the lawn, deliberately loud enough for everyone to hear. Come join us. We were just discussing career transitions. The smirk on his face said everything, filling me with a cold rage I carefully masked. He'd been waiting for this moment for 20 years, ever since we were both junior developers fresh out of college. While he'd focused on climbing the management ladder, I'd stayed in the trenches, writing code, solving problems, building things that actually worked and mattered. How's the job search going? Lydia asked, her voice dripping with fake concern. I heard Horizon let you go during their last restructuring. Such a volatile industry, isn't it? Volatile. Right. That's one way to describe what had happened at Horizon. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was the real story behind my termination. A story that was about to unfold in exactly 3 minutes. My heart raced with anticipation. I checked my watch. 2:57 p.m. Pacific Time. Right on schedule, every computer at Horizon Technologies would be starting their automated weekend system upgrade, including the CEO's personal laptop, which he never let anyone else touch. You know, Dominic continued, warming to his favorite subject, himself, in today's tech world, you have to be innovative, forward-thinking. My company just closed a $50 million round because we understand where the industry is going. I took another sip of my drink, feeling the cool liquid contrast with the burning determination inside me. I remembered countless late nights in my office at Horizon, building something that would make Dominic's startup look like a middle school science project. Fired at 38. Pathetic, that was my youngest cousin Wesley, fresh out of business school and full of opinions about an industry he barely understood. Guess programming isn't your thing after all, cousin. The words echoed across the lawn, piercing like tiny daggers. Other conversations stopped. All eyes turned to see how the family failure would respond. I felt their stares but stood tall, a secret smile playing at the corners of my mouth. I checked my watch again, my pulse quickening. 2:58 p.m. Let me tell you what really happened at Horizon Technologies, I began, my voice steady despite the emotions churning inside me. 5 years ago, I started working on a side project. Not just any project, an AI-driven security system that could adapt to and neutralize cyber threats in real time. I called it Project Sentinel. While my colleagues focused on flashy features and quick profits, I built something revolutionary, layer by layer, line by line. I created an AI that could think, learn, and protect better than anything on the market. The nights I spent perfecting this system, I could feel it becoming something extraordinary. But I wasn't naive. I'd seen too many developers lose their work to corporate greed, especially women in tech. So I built Sentinel with a failsafe, a biometric authentication algorithm that would activate under specific conditions. The code itself contained my digital fingerprints. 2 months ago, Victor Mercer, Horizon's ambitious new CEO, called me into his office. Emily, he said, not looking up from his laptop, we're going in a different direction. The board wants to focus on consumer applications. Your security project is being terminated. I started to explain the potential of Project Sentinel, my voice rising with passion, but he cut me off with a dismissive wave. We've already sold your codebase to a military contractor. They'll retool it for their needs. Your services are no longer required. The memory of his cold voice sent a shiver through me. What Mercer didn't know was that I'd anticipated this move. The day I started Project Sentinel, I embedded a verification protocol deep in its architecture. If anyone tried to modify or repurpose the core code without proper authorization, the system would reveal its true creator. My heart had raced as I programmed this safeguard, knowing it might someday be my only protection. Of course, I said calmly, gathering my things, fighting to keep my hands from trembling. I understand. The next day, headlines announced that Horizon Technologies had signed a $1.5 billion contract with the Department of Defense, based on revolutionary AI security technology that Victor Mercer and his team had developed. My termination agreement included a standard non-disclosure clause. I signed it without argument, much to Mercer's surprise. He probably expected me to fight, to claim credit, to demand recognition. But I knew something he didn't. Project Sentinel wasn't just a security system. It was a testament to every developer who'd ever had their work stolen, every innovator who'd been pushed aside by corporate politics, every woman whose contributions had been erased. And in exactly 2 minutes, as Horizon's systems ran their weekend upgrade, a very special piece of code would execute, sending a rush of anticipation through my veins. You should have focused on management like me, Dominic was saying, enjoying his moment of superiority. Left the coding to younger people with fresher ideas. I smiled, feeling a quiet confidence spread through me as I remembered the elegant simplicity of the verification protocol. When triggered, it would systematically catalog every line of Project Sentinel's code, tracing its development history back to its original creator, me. My phone buzzed, a news alert. I felt my pulse quicken. Job offer? Lydia asked sweetly, her perfect smile not reaching her eyes. I hear McDonald's is hiring. 2:59 p.m. somewhere in Silicon Valley, in Horizon Technologies headquarters, Victor Mercer was probably sitting in his San Francisco penthouse office, preparing for Monday's board meeting where he would take full credit for my work. The same Victor Mercer who'd once told me that real innovators don't waste time writing code. The same Victor Mercer who'd sold my life's work without a second thought. The same Victor Mercer who was about to learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating women in tech. Actually, I said, raising my voice just enough to catch everyone's attention, excitement bubbling beneath my calm exterior, why don't we all take out our phones? I think the next few minutes are going to be quite interesting. Wesley snorted. What, did you finally figure out how to code a calculator app? I checked my watch one final time, my heart pounding against my ribs. 3 p.m. Time for Project Sentinel to reveal its true sentinel. My phone buzzed first, then Dominic's, then Lydia's. Within seconds, the peaceful afternoon air was filled with notification sounds as every phone at the reunion lit up simultaneously. The sensation of victory coursed through me like electricity. Breaking news: Horizon Technologies stock halted after authentication protocol reveals unauthorized code transfer. Dominic's smirk faltered as he read the headline, the color draining from his face. Lydia's perfectly manicured fingers trembled slightly as she scrolled through the article, her polished exterior cracking. What's happening? Wesley demanded, his youthful arrogance dissolving into confusion. I took a casual sip of my drink, savoring this moment I'd waited months for. Oh, just a small software update. You see, when I built Project Sentinel, I included something special, a little gift for anyone who tried to steal it. More phones buzzed. More headlines appeared, each notification making my heart race faster. Department of Defense suspends $1.5 billion Horizon contract pending investigation. Horizon CEO Victor Mercer unavailable for comment as code authenticity questions emerge. Project Sentinel, the hidden story behind Silicon Valley's biggest AI security system. What did you do? Dominic whispered, his entrepreneurial confidence evaporating like morning dew. I pulled out my laptop, the same laptop I'd used to write the original code for Project Sentinel. The weight of it felt satisfying in my hands, like a weapon finally unleashed. Would you like to see? After all, you're all such experts in innovation and forward thinking. The taste of these words was sweet after months of swallowing their condescension. The family gathered around as I opened a secure browser window. On screen, a live feed showed Project Sentinel's authentication protocol executing across Horizon's networks, a beautiful cascade of truth in motion. Every piece of software has a signature, I explained, my voice carrying across the now silent lawn. Like DNA. You can try to hide it, modify it, claim it as your own, but with the right tools, you can always trace it back to its source. Lines of code scrolled across my screen, each one documenting its own creation history, dates, timestamps, developer signatures, all pointing back to one source, me. The pride I felt watching my creation assert its origins was indescribable. 5 years, 3 months, and 12 days, I continued, my voice steady and strong. That's how long I spent building Project Sentinel. Every night, every weekend, while Mercer and his visionaries were at charity galas and tech conferences, taking credit for other people's work. My Aunt Patricia, Dominic, and Lydia's mother gasped as another news alert appeared. Horizon Technologies faces multiple federal investigations over code authentication scandal. Her perfectly composed society face crumbled in real time. But they fired you. Wesley protested weakly, his voice cracking. They owned your work. I smiled, pulling up another window, feeling the rush of finally showing my cards. Actually, they didn't. You see, Project Sentinel was never a Horizon project. I built it independently, on my own time, using my own resources. I only tested it on Horizon's systems after receiving written authorization that specifically maintained my ownership rights. The document appeared on screen, an email chain that I'd carefully preserved, showing Mercer's dismissive approval of my hobby project. I remember the cold fury I felt when he'd casually dismissed years of my work with that phrase. When Mercer sold my code to the military, he triggered the authentication protocol. But I designed it to wait, to give them time to dig themselves deeper. Every time they modified the code, every time they claimed credit, the system documented it. Dominic leaned forward, his startup founder's mind finally grasping the implications, his eyes wide with shock. The military contract was for stolen technology. Exactly, I finished, feeling the righteous satisfaction spread through me. Mercer sold something he didn't own, something he didn't create, something he didn't understand. And now everyone knows it. My phone rang, a number I recognized from my Horizon days. Mercer's personal line. I let it go to voicemail, the sound of his desperation like music to my ears. But that's not even the best part, I continued, opening one final document, feeling a rush of pride as I revealed my masterstroke. While Mercer was busy erasing my name from Project Sentinel, I was filing patents. 17 of them, covering every key innovation in the system. Lydia's legal expertise kicked in, her marketing facade falling away to reveal genuine shock. You mean Horizon doesn't own Project Sentinel? You do. Every line of code, every algorithm, every innovation they sold to the military, it all belongs to you. And thanks to Mercer's very public claims about developing it himself, proving theft will be remarkably easy. Wesley, his earlier mockery forgotten, scrolled through news articles on his phone, his face pale. The stock, it's going to crash when trading resumes. Probably, I agreed, a strange mix of justice and sorrow flowing through me. Corporate fraud tends to have that effect. More phones rang, reporters, lawyers, investment firms, all trying to reach various members of my successful family. The garden filled with a cacophony of ringtones. Dominic's startup investors would have questions about his judgment. Lydia's position at Google might need review, given her connection to a major tech scandal. I felt no joy in their discomfort, only a sense of balance being restored. Why? Dominic finally asked, genuine confusion in his eyes. Why wait? Why let them fire you if you knew you had this? I thought about all the developers I'd known who'd had their work stolen, their innovations credited to others, their contributions erased by corporate politics. Women whose ideas were dismissed in meetings only to be praised when repeated by men. The anger I'd swallowed for years burned in my chest. Because sometimes justice needs an audience, I replied, my voice steady but passionate. Sometimes people need to learn that success isn't about who can take credit fastest. It's about who actually does the work. My phone buzzed again, an email from Gabriela Vega, CEO of Vertex Technologies. Impressive authentication protocol. Would you be interested in discussing Project Sentinel's real potential? Dinner next week? The validation warmed me more than I expected. I showed the email to my cousins. Guest programming is still my thing after all. The sun was setting over my aunt's perfect lawn, casting long shadows over the gathered family members. In Silicon Valley, I knew Mercer was probably watching his carefully constructed facade crumble. Tomorrow the real investigations would begin, but right now, in this moment, I watched my successful relatives realize that real innovation, real value isn't about titles or funding rounds or beach houses. Sometimes it's about being underestimated, about being dismissed as outdated or redundant. And sometimes it's about writing code so elegant, so perfect that it can wait patiently for years until the exact right moment to reveal its truth. The beauty of this moment was worth every late night I'd spent building my safeguard. Dominic's phone rang again, probably another worried investor. Lydia was frantically texting her PR team at Google, her fingers flying across the screen. Wesley had gone very quiet, his youthful arrogance replaced by a new understanding of how the tech world really works. I checked my watch one final time. 3:30 p.m. Project Sentinel had done its job. The truth was out, and somewhere in Silicon Valley, a very expensive lesson about respecting women developers was just beginning. 1 month can change everything. I sat in Vertex Technologies' main conference room, feeling a mixture of pride and vindication as Gabriela Vega finished her presentation to the board. On the screen behind her, Project Sentinel's capabilities were displayed in real time, protecting Vertex's vast network with an efficiency that made their previous security systems look primitive. My creation was finally being recognized for what it truly was. In the 4 weeks since implementation, Gabriela concluded, her voice filled with genuine enthusiasm, Sentinel has prevented over 5,000 sophisticated cyber attacks, adapted to 17 previously unknown threat vectors, and reduced our security response time by 89%. The board members' expressions had transformed from skeptical to amazed during the demonstration. I could feel their respect like a tangible force in the room. They'd seen the headlines about Horizon's collapse, watched the congressional hearings about software IP theft, and followed the SEC investigation that had destroyed Victor Mercer's career. But seeing Sentinel in action was different. It was witnessing real innovation unfold before their eyes. And you developed this independently, one board member asked me, leaning forward with newfound respect in his eyes. While working at Horizon? I nodded, a quiet confidence replacing my former defensiveness. Nights, weekends, using my own equipment. Horizon only provided a testing environment, with documented permission that maintained my IP rights. The same testing environment that had allowed me to perfect Sentinel's authentication protocol, the very feature that had exposed Mercer's theft. Well, Gabriela smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. I think we're all in agreement. Shall we make the announcement? The board's vote was unanimous. By evening, the news would break. Vertex Technologies was acquiring exclusive rights to Project Sentinel for $5.8 billion, with me joining as Chief Innovation Officer to oversee its implementation across their global network. The validation felt like a warm current running through my body. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the Horizon scandal broke. Tech journalists wanted interviews, developers' rights organizations wanted me to speak at conferences, congressional committees wanted my testimony on corporate IP theft. But the messages I found most interesting were from other developers, especially women, sharing countless stories of stolen work, erased contributions, and innovations credited to executives who couldn't write a line of code. Sentinel had become more than just a security system. It had become a symbol of justice in an industry that too often rewarded theft over creation, especially for women in tech whose voices had been silenced. As I left Vertex's headquarters, my phone rang, a familiar number. "Hello, Dominic," I answered, hearing my cousin's strained voice. "Emily, I need your help." After the Horizon scandal, Dominic's startup had faced intense scrutiny. Investors had discovered that his revolutionary technology was mostly borrowed from his developers, good people who'd been silenced by NDAs and legal threats. "My developers are leaving," he continued, desperation evident in his voice. "The funding's dried up." I didn't understand. "Didn't understand what?" I asked, feeling neither vindication nor pity, just a strange sadness for what could have been. That real innovation comes from respect, from giving credit where it's due. He paused. From actually knowing how to build something, not just how to take credit for it. I thought about the young developers at his company, people who'd faced the same dismissal and disrespect I had, the same battles I'd fought. "Send me their contact information," I said. "Vertex is building a new development team for Sentinel's expansion. We need people who understand both code and ethics." Later that evening, I visited Horizon's former headquarters, now mostly empty as the company faced bankruptcy and criminal investigations. Mercer had been indicted for fraud, the board had resigned in disgrace, the military contract had been cancelled. The building felt like a hollow shell of what it once was. But in the parking lot, I saw a familiar face, Noah Park, a junior developer who'd always supported my work at Horizon. My heart lifted at seeing a friendly face from those difficult days. "Ms. Reynolds," he called out, his face lighting up. Or should I say Madam Innovation Officer? I smiled, feeling genuine warmth. "Just Emily is fine. How are you holding up?" "Actually, amazing." After Sentinel exposed Mercer, we junior developers formed a coalition, started documenting everything. Turns out Mercer had stolen code from dozens of us, especially from the women on the team. He showed me his phone, a website where developers were sharing their stories, supporting each other, demanding recognition for their work. The solidarity I saw there moved me deeply. "We're calling it the Sentinel Protocol," Noah grinned. "A way to protect developers' rights and expose theft." "You inspired it." I looked at the website, my throat tight with emotion as I remembered all the times I'd seen talented developers pushed aside, their work stolen, their contributions erased, particularly women whose voices were so often silenced. "Send me the link," I said. "Vertex's new ethics board might be interested in supporting this." My phone buzzed again, Lydia this time. After the scandal, Google had launched an internal investigation into code attribution. She'd been asked to step down pending review. "I get it now," she texted. "Why you stayed in development instead of chasing titles. Real power isn't in taking credit. It's in creating something that matters." At home, I opened my laptop, the same one I'd used to write Sentinel's first lines of code. On my screen, the system hummed quietly, protecting networks across the globe. I traced my fingers lightly over the keys, feeling a deep connection to everything this machine and I had created together. But Sentinel's real impact wasn't in the cyber attacks it prevented or the billions it was worth. Its real impact was in the changes it had sparked: new industry standards for code attribution, stronger protections for developers' rights, a growing movement demanding respect for the people who actually build the technology that powers our world. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Wesley, my youngest cousin who'd mocked my career at the reunion. The notification made my heart skip with unexpected emotion. "Starting coding classes next week," he wrote. "Think you could mentor me? I want to learn how to build something real." I smiled, warmth spreading through my chest as I remembered my own journey from underestimated developer to industry changemaker. The doubt, the late nights, the quiet determination that had carried me through. "Lesson 1, I replied, feeling a genuine desire to help. "Success isn't about who takes credit. It's about who does the work and about protecting what you build." Outside my window, the Silicon Valley sunset painted the sky in shades of possibility, golden light filtering through my simple apartment blinds. Tomorrow, I would start my new role at Vertex. Next week, I would testify before Congress about protecting developers' rights, especially for women in tech. Next month, the Sentinel protocol would launch globally. But tonight, I opened a new project file on my laptop, another idea, another innovation, another chance to prove that real power in tech isn't about titles or theft or corporate politics. It's about writing code that matters, code that protects, code that reveals truth. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, alive with potential. And sometimes, it's about showing the world that the women developers they underestimate today might just revolutionize their industry tomorrow. I felt a deep sense of purpose as I began typing the first lines of a new creation. After all, every line of code tells a story. Mine just happened to change everything.